In 1965, held in front of Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the first gay march took place involving those seeking the rights many held in the United States. As time passed on, the people in this community gained the ability to outwardly express themselves with little fear. While the United States has come a rather long way with bringing these people their birthrights, many fail to see where these efforts are lacking. While most have their attention focused on the adult side of this community, those who really need help are the teenagers seeking mental, emotional, and physical support as they come into their identities. With the lack of resources available to the LGBTQ youth, many wonder how to aid the jumpstart of their journey to acceptance. By providing level support, it gives these new ideas a leg to grow and flourish in a healthy path. There is quite a bit of controversy when it comes from this idea. Many refuse to acknowledge anything involving the LGBTQ+ community. I have watched as the mere mention of this community has, quite literally, been torn to shreds. Signs promoting safe spaces, such as a GSA, have been ripped from walls right inside my high school. Food and drinks have been thrown, and students have climbed on chairs in order to vandalize this sign. The issue these young adults face is the sheer lack of structure and support that should come from friends and family or their local community. Instead, have been replaced by fear and hatred. Many question why this might be, wondering if it's simply the result of certain cultural beliefs or a larger problem with the system itself. However, in this proposal, I will be discussing how the latter has failed the youth in this regard. Identity and acceptance are largely left out of the equation regarding higher levels of education in a student's career, for example, high school and college level education, which are the years that hold the most importance when coming into yourself. With this lack of conversation, many who find themselves aligned with the LGBTQ+ community feel lost and quite afraid. Many high schoolers are missing these important resources for these people, whether it is support groups or clubs for like-minded people, or a safe space where a student might find comfort in confiding with a trusted adult. With this comes the sheer lack of health, education, and wellness that many young adults need in order to have a safe and comfortable adult life with their identities. In addition to the lack of mental support present in a learning environment, education about non-traditional relationships are rarely, if ever, discussed inside of school in comparison to a traditional relationship. This becomes prominent when looking at higher rates of STDs spread throughout the LGBTQ community, especially within the younger demographic. The practice of safe sex between those of the same gender is never properly taught in the same way as that between the opposite sex. A great resource that provides reliable information is the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is a nationally recognized organization that aims to educate the public and reduce deaths caused by the spread of STDs among the LGBTQ+ community, specifically younger men who live in lower income areas where access to safety measures are much more scarce than compared to higher income areas. Backed by the CDC, this organization not only informs those parts of said communities of how to practice safely, but also educators, parents, and guardians of how to teach and encourage their teenagers to prevent the spread of these diseases. Many states, such as California, Illinois, and Rhode Island, With funding from the CDC, courses have been implemented into health-based classes to promote and educate the youth on the dangers of STDs. While I believe that the subject of identity should be something everyone should have the opportunity to discover on their own through regulated support and education, many would disagree with this. Due to certain beliefs, whether that be religious or otherwise, many demand that anything regarding sexual orientation be kept out of classrooms at any level of education. Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, passed in 2022 by Governor DeSantis, is an excellent example of this mindset. This bill prohibits the teaching of any kind of sexual orientation or gender identity between the grades of kindergarten through 8th, unless in regards to an age-appropriate discussion of health and safety. While this bill could have been an effective law, allowing children to focus on their developing minds, many, a part of the Conservative Party, justified their agreement with this ban in regards to their religion. Due to this, those who have grown up with guardians who may be a part of the LGBTQ+ community are unable to find similarities between their peers or teachers, which leads to further decline in resources provided to today's youth. This ultimately causes a sense of loneliness in today's children, who may feel ostracized or different from their peers simply due to the fact that they feel like their family is different. Being a part of this community, I found myself very early on in my process feeling alone, and many of my peers have felt the same dread, especially as a middle schooler, with everyone experiencing this awkward transition from a child to a young adult and not entirely understanding what my feelings and thoughts meant. It was hard to open up when it felt like everyone was against me. However, I am far from an expert when it comes to others in the same community. The experience of everyone's story will always be different. Everyone follows a different path, some ending up in a similar place while others finding themselves alone and afraid. In the process of writing this proposal, I have had to educate myself on other perspectives. It would be informative to give an unknowing audience a limited perspective that only regards my personal experiences. It is important to include every possible point of view and argument, whether it is for or against my statement. In order to decrease the mental decline of this part of the LGBTQ community, I propose to implement a system that would allow a person to send an anonymous message to a school counselor entailing how they might be feeling in the moment. By allowing the sender to remain anonymous, the hope would be that they will be more than willing to communicate their issues with an adult and perhaps agree to a meeting in order to receive help. While the system would not be perfect, especially with those who fear to tell others of their identity, it would be a start for a larger program consisting of hotlines and resources lined up for these young adults to thrive as they discover this new world. Today's teenagers are the next generation of workers, so by giving them the support that is needed at an age of growing, it will allow them to succeed in the future and accept their identity with open arms.